people really are taking stock. They're really looking at, what's important to me. There's time now for self-reflection. And so you may even find with your friends and family, they're really kind of thinking, so it's kind of like a version of a midlife crisis in a way for some, around thinking around what do I want from my life. We've all been under an incredible amount of stress, and so people are really being affected by this, and I think people are really taking stock of their lives.
Yeah, you make some really good points there, Melissa, of having to just sit back and stop. I mean, a lot of people obviously are going through so many different sorts of challenges, but yeah, we're in such a world now where we are forced to stay at home with the homeschooling, for example, or we don't have a job. So things that have just been pushed and pulled in so many directions. As a psychotherapist and a counsellor, what strategy ideas do you have for couples and friends and family and people in general to strengthen their relationships?
Well, I think at the moment, it's a time where many people are under stress, whether that's conscious or unconscious. We have a big threat happening at the moment with this virus. And so it's the first time the world's come together, actually, I think, and fought something at the same time, really. And so what's happening for many of us is there's stress, whether you're conscious of it or not. We've all got that part of the brain that goes into fight, flight response. And so my advice to people right now is, if you are taking stock, is to just remember people will often make really big decisions during something like this because there is so much anxiety. And for some, I think just taking some self-reflection around, is this really what I want to do in terms of divorcing my partner? That old song, breaking up is hard to do, is a very true one. And because it talks about how really it is. It's the hardest thing in the world to do. It's a hard slog when people get a divorce. And so it's just a time for mindfulness and just being careful, reflecting, maybe seeking out a good couple therapist, because at the moment we are all kind of under stress. And so big decisions, normal advice is don't make too much of a big decision with things when you are under stress. So I think while it's a great time for reflection and taking stock, and of course what I'm talking about here is everyday relationships, it's different when we're talking about abuse or domestic violence, of course.
Melissa, what if you are in a relationship and one partner is willing to open up, the other partner is closed off?
Well, I think there can be many reasons for that. And sometimes it can be that what has happened at the moment, when we think about so many people have been threatened financially, some people with their health, some people have lost their businesses. So I think being able to, be aware that when this happens, of course, some people's mental health issues may arise around anxiety, depression. Our vulnerabilities will emerge more under stress. Who we really are will emerge more under stress, and so being able to talk to your partner and say, hey, I've noticed that you're being a little different lately. I'm noticing that you're drinking more. I'm noticing that you're withdrawing more, or whatever your partner might be doing. And I think to approach them really gently and in a friendly way and say, I'm really, really worried about you. Being aware that kind of concern can make a big difference to somebody is really, really important, because as we know, mental health issues are emerging a lot at present, and there are so many factors contributing to that. So it's a really important time to have each other's back, your partner's back, because people are going to behave a little differently at the moment. This is not a normal environment, and so just being aware that the brain function at the moment is a little bit different because of the level of anxiety at present.
You mentioned people being vulnerable under stress. We're also hearing some positive stories with couples who are perhaps enjoying their time together because they've got more time, and certainly being a tremendous support to each other.
It has been wonderful, actually, in my practice to just observe. Like, I can be working with couples and be teaching them skills and how to relate to each other better, how to have each other's back. And what do people say? Time is such a problem. And so what people are really doing now is realising, wow, we've got the time. I can actually see my partner. I can remember who you are. we can stop and have a conversation. I can actually say, hey, what's happening with you? I'm more curious. And so it's been really lovely with having more time for a lot of people, being able to rekindle in ways that have been, as a therapist, I've been really, really struck by it and touched just how much people have been able to rekindle. And I think it's a good lesson, you know, that those tips that we always have about spending time, being curious to your partner, wanting to know how they tick, really goes far in the efforts for any relationship to rekindle. So right now, I think is a really good time.
And unfortunately, we're hearing reports, Melissa, that calls to domestic violence counselling services have increased. What advice would you give to people who are in a vulnerable situation right now?
Well, I think what often happens with people with domestic violence is that they actually don't tell somebody what's going on within their home. And the problem at the moment is because everything is so shut down and it's locked down, there are things going on that many of us wouldn't be aware of. So I think being able to, if you're in that place, reach out to any of the hotlines or reach out to a friend that you know really has your back and say, hey, I need to let you know what's going on in my own home, and put in place everything you can around getting, you know, the safety and the protection that you need at this time, because it is a very vulnerable time. People are being triggered, and you know, under stress is when these kind of things really do happen more, and we're getting reports about that. So being able to let someone know what's going on and getting someone involved that can help you, because there is plenty of good help. And at the moment, you know, it's really been backed by the government. This kind of support has been stepped up a lot, so that the helplines and domestic violence helplines are great.
Yeah, it certainly has, and we've seen an injection into the economy and then those various organisations as well. Finally, Melissa, where can people find out more information on what you offer in your business?
Oh, well, I'm melissaferrari.com.au. That's my website, and I'm a couple therapist as well as a psychotherapist. And another really good one also to go to is the PACFA website, which is the Psychotherapists and Counsellors Federation of Australia. They've got qualified counsellors and therapists there as well.
Fantastic. Well, certainly, and now is the time, isn't it, to reach out to a loved one, a friend, or someone like you, as you mentioned, to get that support, because we are all in a very, very challenging time. But as you said, there are some silver linings to it. But gee, we've got a long road ahead, don't we?
We certainly do. We certainly do, Janie.
Thank you so much, Melissa Ferrari, for joining us on Weekend Live.